society. Now coming to the this Earth Day, 22nd April, I was just reading a note circulated. Is one day is Earth Day or all days are Earth? I'll come to a very interesting fact that Earth originated somewhere 7 billion years ago. Life came around 3 billion years ago. Then the most advanced creature on the Earth came around less than a billion, or you can say 200,000 years ago. So even not even 200,000 years ago, in the time scale, on a clock, and we call them the most advanced. 200,000 years, but when we talk 200,000 years again came around, I don't know if that we move to the civilized world or uncivilized world. With the onset of civilization, we start distracting the environment. We started ruining the earth, and we have reached to a time then the very existence of human being is at threat. We have maybe in couple of thousands or millions of years, we have only two choices left. Either get extinct our race, or move to another planet, that planet as well. So these are the two possibilities we have. And right now, exobiology has already taken in charge, looking the possibility of life on another planet. So we can move maybe after 1 million years or so, and we can ruin another planet. And in that way, we can ruin maybe the entire universe, another billion of years. So that is the major challenge. We is that, and as a vice principal, I'll say, students, it is your responsibility to save the earth. Is that we ever say it's my responsibility? Which is the better answer if I give a question? Is it your responsibility, my responsibility? I think it is my responsibility. First of all, I say me, and then say it is our. We shall not say your. So whatever the disaster we have done on earth, we should bear the responsibilities, and we should start improving our move right from today, right from just now. And we should put in all the efforts to save the earth. And if I say earth, earth is not only for me, earth is for the entire biodiversity. I'm really sad that Ukraine war, people are crying. There's so much of atrocities. There's so much of political hypocrisy, international political hypocrisy. People are talking of the human life, this, that. Is that anyone ever thought of the endemic species of Ukraine who are going to be lost? And these species would have taken millions of years to evolve. No one is thinking in that line. So whenever we go, we have only myopic approach, we have only myopic vision. But we should see that. So that is the story of Earth Day, and this webinar would be really fruitful if all of us take a pledge that our action, our move should be there to protect the earth right from today, right from just now. And yes, things are not difficult, we can apply. We should use the natural resources judicially or in a more sustainable way. So that is in our hand, that we can do. Because if I just ask at this stage, shall we stop development? Or probably we have already reached to an extent that we cannot compromise with the development. But we can always think of the sustainable approach of development. And that is the need of the hour. Anyway, today's topic, again, is a very, very interesting what Dr. Himanshu Oja is going to give. Chemico-biological approach for defense applications. I look this from different aspects. Maybe we can learn the various chemical and biological approach used by different animal kingdom, different plants for defense. We can say the defense approach, which is used in the army personals and for country, where take the chemical and biological approach. And of course, it is multiple pronged. And of course, Dr. Himanshu Oja is certainly going to speak, and we are all eager to hear him. So without taking much of the time, I think I give you the platform to Vikram you again, and you can please continue with the program further. Thank you. Vikram, over to you.
Thank you, sir.
हेलो, हाँ दीप्ति कुछ कह रहे हो? हेलो.
Hello, yes, sir.
Can I start? Can I start?
Sorry, ma'am. I just lost network. Hello, ma'am. Am I audible? Hello. Yes, sir. Sir, I'm really sorry for the glitch. Thank you, sir, for your words of wisdom.
Yes, Vikram.
Now I feel grateful. Thank you, sir, for your words of wisdom. Now I feel grateful to have presence of our very dynamic coordinator, sir, a person who has given inspiration to all of us and have given the firm foundation for all the young minds. So now I'm elated to welcome Dr. Erengbam Rocky Mangengcha, sir, to address the gathering and welcome our speaker for the day. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Bikram. A very good morning to all of you. Welcome, sir, Dr. Himanshu Oja, sir. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation to come to Deshbandhu College. Respected Principal, sir, Vice Principal, sir, IQAC Coordinator, conveners of Synergia, Team Synergia, and also all the members and all the participants of this event. Today we are celebrating this Earth Day, which usually falls on April 2022. And the main aim of celebrating this Earth Day is to protect our Mother Earth from the disturbances like pollution, deforestation, which has made the survival of the species, especially the human being, so in order to protect and preserve the future of our future generations and all the species in our Mother Earth, we are celebrating this Earth Day, and it is important for us to inculcate and culture the minds of the young generations regarding their thinking, behavior, and their duties towards our Mother Earth. So for today, I'm very much delighted that we have today Dr. Himanshu Oja. He is a scientist at Indian Institute of Nuclear Medicine and Allied Sciences, INMAS, Defense Research and Development Organization, to inspire our young minds and educate our students on this important topic, as well as and all the topics which is related to whatever sir is going to talk. So for this, I would like to thank our conveners, especially Dr. Dipti Gupta and Dr. Vaishali, for taking up this initiative to organize this Earth Day celebration along with Team Synergia. So I welcome once again you, sir. Thank you very much. Over to you, Bikram.
Thank you, sir, for your encouraging words. Now I would like to request Mahi Verma, a student of BSc Program Life Science in second year, to give official introduction for our speaker for the day. Over to you, Mahi.
Thank you, Vikram. It's my pleasure today to welcome our guest of the day, Dr. Himanshu Oja. He's a scientist and the Joint Director at the Institute of Nuclear Medicine and Allied Sciences, DRDO. He's currently heading the research group CBRN, Protection and Decontamination Research Group in the Division of Radiological, Nuclear and Imaging Sciences. His research group is working on the development of wet decontamination based on carbon nanocomposites, CBRN agents. Beside this, his group is also working to develop effective dermal hydrogels for dealing with traumatic wounds and radiation burns. In 2013, he received the Laboratory Technological Award for ISO 9001-2008 and NABL accreditation to INMAS. Subsequently, in 2017, he again received the award for the establishment of the Biodiversity Laboratory at INMAS. National Science Day Condemnation Award 2022 for development of advanced silver nanoparticles hydrogel-based topical formulation for wound healing. Dr. Oja is an internationally recognized trainer in the field of CBRN. He collaborated to prepare 12 Indian airports and 10 seaports CBRN compliant. He has more than 50 publications in peer-reviewed journals of international repute and also filed 4 patents and 1 granted patent. He has successfully undertaken 7 research projects and delivered invited lectures at various conferences and webinars. He is the editor of reference book for CBRN course published by NDMA, as well as the recently published academic press publication Cheminformatic and Bioinformatic in Pharmaceutical Sciences. So it's a pleasure that you have joined today. Hope we'll get to learn a lot from your learnings and experience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kamal sir, Dr. Rocky, and Vikram. Am I audible? Hello, am I audible? Vishal?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Yeah. And Vikram, Mai for saying such a nice word for myself. Thank you once again. I especially thanks to Deepthi for giving me for coordinating this opportunity for me. So Deepthi, I'm really very thankful. Also, and it is lovely to be in Deshbandhu College. As you know, I feel very close to Dr. Rajiv Agrawal, their principal. So it's a true delight to be with him in any part of time. Oh, anyway, so the talk on today is I think to commemorate the Earth Day on 22nd of April, and we know that our famous DRDO scientist who are later became the president of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, he said we cannot change future, but we can change our habits. Because if we can successfully change our habits, we can future. So with this, science has to progress, and it has to take a leap and path in progressing the technologies, transforming the knowledge into the technologies, and come up with solutions for the problems which we are facing today. And there's a lot of concern about we are not sustaining the development. So we have to have a sustainable development, and for this we have to meet a number of problems. Currently, world is facing a problem because of 2 nations who are waging war against each other for their own interests. And maybe you have come across with the news on different international news channels that the nuclear reactors are now in a deep, grave danger, and there may be a situation of like Chernobyl may appear again. And if certain things are happen, then what kind of scenarios will exist or may appear? So like for make you understand my presentation, I would like to make you watch a video which I have taken from a social site, from a very famous mini series from an OTT platform. And why I wish to make you see that video, because then you will you will get emotionally attached to my work. Then you will understand my work. So I was taking a liberty of 2 minutes 40 seconds to play that video. Now, is it you can see that video? Dr. Vishal? Dr. Visual?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So I'm now playing the video. So this is the radioactive dust is settling on the ground. Yeah. Hello. So have you noticed something in these videos? So the video is giving you many scenarios. It's a very complex scenario. If something happened, the locality living nearby those nuclear installation sites, they don't know anything. They might feel that there may be splash of light, but it is because of the ionizing radiation that they are giving the flash of light. It was not a flakes, it was not an ice flake, it was basically the radioactive dust which was settling on the surface, and the human beings or the animals are living nearby. In fact, doctors don't know how to treat them. People don't know, the administration don't know how to manage such a situation. Patients are dying, victims are dying. We have to force our responders like our defense forces to enter into that zone of Pripyat where the accident happened. So this has become a very, very complex issue. And it happened like this in a country like us, which have a high population density. How to manage certain, this kind of dualities. This is the meaning of INVAS. So in this today's presentation, I would like to chemical biology approaches in defense application, particularly that how to manage the nuclear emergencies. They may happen, unfortunately, in our country. By chemical biology, I'm by profession, I am a chemist, but when I joined this institute in 2005, I find myself into a situation where I have to learn the biology. Is it a very interdisciplinary approach? Is it a time demand that if interdisciplinary approach, then you can find the solution for the problems. So you can better understand them, you can better design the solution for them. So therefore, it's now a time demand that if you are from chemistry or from biology or from geology, you have to integrate yourself with the other stream to come up a good researcher so that you can think better, you can design better, and you can provide a good solution to the problems. Okay? So that is a issue. That is the aim of this presentation, to make you understand that how the chemical biology approaches are useful in defense applications such as nuclear emergency management. So everybody can see my presentation. Vikram, can you see my presentation?
Yes, sir, we can see. Don't worry. Yeah.
Yeah. So when the radiation accident happened, and they are, in fact, since 1940s, there are many, accidents, or nuclear bombing issues were have been reported in the literature. There are basically of two types. One is plant exposure, like for example, if you sending a cancer patient to the radiotherapy unit, it is a plant exposure where we selectively locally administering the ionizing radiation to killing the tumor part of the patient. But in that process, we are also protecting the nearby surrounding healthy tissue. So this is called plant exposure, and for this kind of exposure, the doctors take the help of radiation safety officers, and these radiation safety officers basically do all the calculations. They calculate, they prepare the schedule, and by that schedules, the doctors and the technicians administer the ionization. The other is the occupational exposure. For example, the X-ray technicians who are working in diagnostic facility. They are the people who are engaged in mining of uranium, or like people like us who are working research with the, doing research with the activities. So we are, being provided with a TLD batch, which is called thermal luminescence batch. So what this batch basically do that it basically assess the physical absorption of the radiation. So if the physical absorption of the radiation is more than 20 millisievert in a year for a radiation worker, it means that he has to get off from that work, and at least for 3 months he will not resume his work. So this is a way of monitoring the occupational exposure of that particular radiation. But what will happen when this radiation exposure or contamination happen in an unplanned scenario? For example, I showed you in a video of Chernobyl, where the Russian scientists were conducting an experiment, and because of some technical glitch, the experiment went uncontrolled in fashion, and because of it lead to enormous increase in the temperature in the core of the nuclear reactor, and the core got exploded. So in this in this figure you can see that this is the core of that nuclear site, and been exploded. And when it exploded, then the uranium fuel, which is in the form.
Sir, I'm really sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Sir, your slides are not moving, sir.
Pardon?
Your slides are not moving, sir.
It's not moving.
Your slides are not.
Now?
No, sir, we can still see the first page only.
Okay. Just a minute. Let me.
Yeah, now it moved to second.
But it is in that mode, na? Can you see?
No, sir. So probably you can share again.
Okay. Yeah. Can you now see? Can you see?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's absolutely
Is it now?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah. Sorry. Actually, I'm not very used to the technology.
No problem, sir. No problem.
So I was talking about the two possible scenarios. One is that is one, the radiotherapy patient, or like the radiation workers, they work. But here the assessment can be done by different means. And the first means is about the physical absorption, methods, like for example, thermal luminescence detector, by which you can detect the physical adsorbed dose. Then The other is the unplanned scenarios. For example, what happened in Chernobyl, where because of the experiment, there was enormous increase in the temperature in the core of the nuclear reactor, and because of the core got blast off, and it lead to the fallout of the radioactivity over a kilometers of distance, and it lead to many problems, many scenarios. And eventually, in 1986, I think it happened in April. I think, if I'm not wrong, I think somewhere around 26th of April 1986. And after that, the government decided to completely evacuate that area and leave it for the isolation, so that with weathering like temperature or air, it will able to clean the environment. So still that area is not habitable. The another scenario is what happened in Nagasaki, Hiroshima, when the two bombs were nuclear enabled bombs were bombed the two Japanese cities, and many people were died because. But those who are died, it is not a difficult problem for them. But those who they able to persist or survive after the bombing, they had a problems. They had problems of hereditary effects, genetic effects, and still they are their generation are suffering from the harmful effect of radiation. So whenever the radiation cause problems, it always create a complex scenario. So Institute of Nuclear Medicine and Life Science was established way back in 1958 with the mandate Atom for Peace. It means like it was a time. It was a time when world was feared about the harmful effect of the radioactivity. But our then Prime Minister thought, can we use radioactivity for diagnostic and therapeutic purposes? And with that aim, our founding director, Brigadier Mazumdar, established the Institute of Nuclear Medicine and Life Science for the therapy and diagnostic for the patient who are suffered from the thyroid disorder. And with this, we have a clinical arms, and we were the first in Asia to start this. And we have trained doctors, and we have also trained technicians. We have opened many diplomas and DNBs courses along with the affiliation of University of Delhi. So training become again a core mandate with us. Training that we have to train the doctors and the technician in the nuclear emergencies, and we also come up with the best and the first in Asia about the imaging modalities. You talk about MRI, you talk about PET. The first thing was introduced in India, and it only in mass. So that is we feel pride in that respect. Later on, as we have evolving from last 60 years, we've been given other mandates, and the mandates more related to defense forces. Like if any nuclear emergency may occurs, we have to send our responders. Responder mean that the personnel from the police, fire services, and the defense forces, or NDRF, better known nowadays. The responders are synonymous to NDRF. So these personnel are called responders. So if we have to send those responders in the hot zone mean that the site of attack or site of the mishap. So I cannot send my responder team without protection. I have to provide them physical protection. I have to provide them biological protection. So in biological protection, the INMAS have a program which is called radio protection program. Radio protection program means that can I administer a drug which can prevent the harmful effect of antigen radiation. For example, malaria is not a problem for us, but it is a serious problem, a severe problem for the Western countries. So whenever they come to our country, they even though they don't have malaria, but for the prevention they take anti-malaria. So that is called prophylactic use of that particular anti-malaria. What on similar lines, if we can administered a drug well before, that person will enter into the zone of, contamination or exposure, that drug will help him in, preventing the harmful effect of energy radiation. That is called radio protection. But what about for the victims, those who were lying in the area of, contamination and exposure? So for them, we also have a radio mitigator program. So in this program, the different groups of INMAS are, with different approaches, they are developing the radio protectors and radio mitigators. During the 2010 Mayapuri, there was a situation emerged that how, when the patients reached to the different hospitals, it was it was a very confused scenario. Nobody knows how to treat those patients. The treatment of those patients depends upon the correct assessment of bioabsorbed dose. Now, what is bioabsorbed dose? It is very simple. Our body organs have, their cell division is totally different when you talk about organ wise. For example, if it is a reproductive organs, the cell division is very, very fast. But if it is a cardiovascular system, the cell division is not very fast. So when the cell division is very fast, the harmful effect of radiation can be observed at even a very low dose compared to the one which has been, observed in the cardiovascular system. So it means that it is imperative to assess the bioabsorbed dose in the victims who are being exposed or contaminated with the radioactivity. So it is entirely different from the physical absorption. Physical absorption mean, like, for example, I'm carrying a TLD badge. So whatever the TLD is giving me the dose reading, it is simply the physical absorption of dose. It is not organ specific bioabsorption of dose. Are you going to point? So I cannot start treatment based on the physical absorption of dose. So my doctor will ask me, can you provide me a assessment of bioabsorption dose? So for that facility, we have started a biodosimetry facility, and it is as per the IAEA, which is a UN organization, which is called International Atomic Energy Commission. So it is a commission. It is the agency which draft guidelines and issue warnings, or they publish white papers regarding that how to manage nuclear emergency. So out of those guidelines, guideline was related to the biodosimetry, that how to assess the radiation dose in the victims. So this is called biodosimetry. So we are third in country who established the biodosimetry in India. Then in 2000, mandate came to us, and nowadays you must have heard about CBRN. Don't you? Have you heard about CBRN? If you don't heard about CBRN, it's very simple. It is something like when Western countries allies the Russian government that they may use chemical bombs, they may use biological weapons. So these chemical weapons, biological weapons are nothing. They are basically constitute a class called CBRN. It's called CBRN. C stand for chemical, B stand for biological, and R and N are basically stand for radiological and nuclear. So these are the non-conventional warfares. It means that they are different from explosives. They are different from explosives. So these are the chemical and biological warfares. Maybe the non-state actors may use them against any civilian installation, and may disrupt the activities. Like, for example, what happened in Corona, when our country got in complete lockdown for 2 to 4 months every time. What it caused a lot of problem to our economy, and when any country's economy got weak, it lead to halt in the progress of the country. So with the similar aim, non-state actors may use these agents to halt the progress of our Indian economy. So this is a new mandate which being added to INMAS, and INMAS They have developed a lot of products in CBRN. So I'm not going to touch upon CBRN today. The last but not the least is the last mandate, which was combat casualty care. Like for example, in low intensity warfare areas, like if soldier got a cut of wound, it may lead to a excessive bleeding, and excessive bleeding may lead in the lower blood pressure, and the other organs may go other way around. So it may cause a multi-organ failures, and ultimately the soldier may die. So now how to develop a fast wound healing formulations that can be used to stop the bleeding and can heal the wound fast, and we can save these save the soldier's life. And not only we can save the soldier's life, we have to maintain the operational capability of that particular soldier so that he can continuously wage war in the low intensity warfare areas. So these are the mandate of INMAS, and this is pardon? Yeah. So now you can see that the history of nuclear accident, what happened in Hiroshima, Nagasaki, everybody know that. Like I would like to know if something happened at somewhere, some area, it is called hypocenter. And as the distance increase from the hypocenter, the death is not because of the blast or the thermal effect. The death would be because of the nuclear fallouts. And we can see that after this nuclear fallouts, around 140,000 people were died in Hiroshima, and around 73,000 people were died in Nagasaki. And something like what happened in the hypocenter, it lead to carbonization of entire skin due to the flash burn. But those who are being away from the hypocenter, say around 1 to 2 kilometers away from the hypocenter, they may have different problems. For example, red, black, entire skin which peeled off, and it lead to the radiation burn. This is the excessive radiation burn. And even though they got healed up, it remained completely deformed. It is never being into the total model phase. So it always remain non-structured repairing of the wounds. And this is one of the effects. It may lead to cancer, it may lead to thyroid disorder, or it may lead to other genetic orders, genetic problems. So this is the problem with the nuclear fallouts. So the nuclear fallout is basically the major problem as far as the nuclear bombing is concerned. Now in Chernobyl, it's a very small town called Pripyat, is in Ukraine. Currently it was the news because one country was alleging that other countries again securing its access to the nuclear power plant and firing missile on the nuclear installations. So it may lead to nuclear fallout in the nearby areas. And so this is a very contentious area. And after this accident, around 150,000 square kilometers, whereas in Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine were found contaminated. And after this contamination, the decontamination is the main problem. You have to decontaminate the entire area. You have to decontaminate the victims. We have to prevent the other person to get contaminated with the secondary contamination. And even though those who are being exposed, those who are being standing on the bridge, which is infamously called the Bridge of Death. If you can go on the Google site, and if you type in the Bridge of Death, so you will find it. In my video, I have shown that people are watching the flash of light, and they're enjoying the downpour of those radioactive dust. So they are standing on a bridge, and this bridge is called Bridge of Death. So those who have been exposed with the radioactivity, with the later generation appeared, these defects have been appeared in their future generation or something like this. They have genetic modification, or genetic issues in their leg, in their eyes. They may have multiple organs, or even they have no organ since from the birth. So this is a serious issue that lead to the problem. And contamination is also an issue, because during this kind of blast, nuclear blast or nuclear accident, not a single entity works. There are many entities. For example, in Chernobyl radiation, when the data were published, it was found that xenon, radioactive iodine, thallium, barium, zirconium, ruthenium, cesium-134, cesium-137. So there were many isotopes were there who played their role in the radiation exposure and contamination. And for the each, and there is no single agent available for for the individual ion. We have to have a different approaches to decontaminate. So this become a very complex issue. If certain thing, for example, like Chernobyl happened, then it become a serious headache for the administration, that how to manage this kind of nuclear emergency. So there was an emergency happened in Geonia when there was a burglary happened in the radio diagnostics facility, and the burglars took away the radioactive source. So radioactive source, if you break that particular radiation source, it appears like a shiny object. So you feel like it's something like diamond, and it's a precious metal, but it is a radioactive thing. And what happened? It found lying in this garbage. It found lies in the garbage. And those who have been contaminated and exposed with this garbage, they were being exposed with the radiation burns. So this is the issue with this kind of problems in when somebody got contaminated with the radiation sources. Very recently in 2010 in University of Delhi in Department of Chemistry, there was a radiation source were lying unused in mid of 80s, and Diti must be knowing it. And this source were lying unused in mid 80s, and there was a scrap committee constituted by the university, and because nobody know the rule of how to dispose of the radioactive source, by mistake it reached to the scrap market, and the scrap workers broke down that particular source, and there were shiny tubules there. They thought it's a precious metal, so one of the scrap workers put one shiny tubules in his pocket, inside this wallet, and he used to make his wife wash this tiny goblet, and he always says it's a very precious metal, and I will someday I will sell it and I will make huge money. But he doesn't know that it is a death, and ultimately that person died because of direct exposure of the radiation source directly on his hip part of his skin. This was the eye-opening lesson for the Indian authorities, and after this, it became a very stringent guideline that every year the Department of Atomic Energy will reassess the functionalities of those radiation sources who are being installed in India, and take inspection of that sources on regular basis. And now we can proudly say that since 2010, India has not witnessed any kind of radiation accident or incident because of the undaunting work of our defense force, our Ministry of Defense, and the DAE. So what happened if somebody got exposed or contaminated with the radiation? So when radiation exposure is something like, you can assume that if there is an electric bulb which is illuminating and you are bring your palm just in front of that illuminating lamp, so what it will, you will see a shadow of your palm on the wall behind yourself. So actually there is no physical contact between your palm and the illuminating lamp. So it means that the person who the victim and the radiation source is not into the direct contact, but the ionizing radiation, the flux of ionizing radiation is entering the particular victim's body and depositing the energy. Because what this ionizing radiation do, they deposit the energy in form of packet inside the medium through which it passes. And because of the large amount of energy, say around a mega electron volt, this energy is quite high as compared to what we can handle inside the body. So it leads to disruption in DNA, protein, and lipids. In contamination, you can see in this cartoon, just imagine scenario, people are standing there, they are watching the radioactive dust is coming down. Where if this radiation dust is if they got settled on your hair, on your open parts of your body, this is called contamination. But this contamination is external in nature. This is called external in nature. If it is external in nature, it is very, very easy for me to decontaminate you without causing any harmful effect. But it all depends upon the early diagnosis, early detection and early decontamination. But if by chance you didn't notice, if you want to notice it and it comes to your palm, and by the dirty hand you have ingested a food item or anything like, for example, water, this radioactivity may get internalized inside and it will reach to the thorax part, then to your lungs and to the different organs of the body. Once it got internalized, the situation becomes very complicated. Now, what is that strategy is left to us? We have to complex those radioactive nuclides with a chelating. We have to by using a chelating agent. That is all we have. And these approaches we call decorporating agent. By this, we complex these radionuclides in these chelating agents, and we assume that the agent is quite stable. It will not further dissociate, and ultimately it will come out by the way of urine or stool. This is the only approach we provide to people who have been internally contaminated with the radioactivity. In the exposure, here the diagnosis is very, very important, because here the victim don't know. He do not know that he is being exposed to the radiation source. So here, if you don't know that I have been exposed to radiation, how I can be very sure about that I have been exposed? It will only be observed when the symptoms will appear. And by the time the symptoms got appeared, it is too late. If it is within 24 hours, I can save the patient. If it is beyond that, 3 days, it becomes difficult for any clinician to save that particular victim. So radiation dose assessment is very, very important in case of radiation exposure. So it is a very complex scenario where you require many things, to complete it. Now, this is the slide for the students. I would like to show that what kind of the damage it caused. So interestingly, when in interview boards, when we ask a question that what is the first thing ionizing radiation do to the biological system? So the student says it caused disruption in DNA, it caused disruption in protein, and because of it compromised their function, and ultimately the cell, if they're not completely repaired, they may die. But this is not the case. When the ionizing radiation interact the biological system, the first thing they do is the adsorption. Adsorption of the energy in the bond of the chemical compound by which it is interacting. And here the two things are two phenomena are very important. One is Crompton scattering, another is a photoelectric effect. Although both are the physics, they are physical phenomena. What the Crompton scattering do? The photon comes, collide with the atom, and it knock out an electron. But in the photoelectric effect, it knock out an electron, but that electron has to be from the valence shell, mean outermost electron. Both the effect are almost similar in nature, but in the Auger effect, it is a jet effective which is not playing the role, but in photoelectric effect, the jet effective playing the role. And after this adsorption of energy and the knockout of the electron, it caused structural damage. And that is what I am trying to show in this slide here, that after interacting with the DNA, it caused single strand break, double strand break, or multiple lesion in the strand of the DNA. Similar thing happen in the protein. It may cause breakage in the polypeptide chain, or it may lead to the formation of carbonyl groups in the polypeptide chain. And we, as a student of science, and especially those who are from chemistry, they must have they must have the knowledge about it, that all the biochemical process works on one principle: structure activity relationship. Are you agree? Anybody from the audience can endorse my statement? Am I right now? The chemistry works on one principle: structure activity relationship. If your structure got compromised, it means that it will lose its activity. So this is what the radiation do. It disrupts the structures of our biomolecules, which are very critical for our survival. And if our repairing machinery is not able to compete with the damage or which has been ensured by the energy radiation, then in that scenario, symptoms got appeared, and if there is no medical management provided to the victim may die. And it is being seen in many cases. If your radiation dose is more than 2.5 gray, it may cause 50% lethality. Imagine 2.5% whole body exposure, it may cause 50% lethality. There 50% chance it would be a lethal dose to the human population. So disease is, you can see that the severity of the severe harmful effect of the energy radiation. So what kind of management strategies we require to develop in INMAS? So we have to assess the dose and what kind of tool we should have. We should have a biodosimetry lab facility for the rapid assessment of the radiation dose in the victims. But to your surprise, I have used rapid, but it is very time consuming, very laborious process. It took us 5 years to establish that lab in our INMAS. And if we take the blood from the victim in a vacutainer, it took me to 48 hours to culture the lymphocyte. Lymphocyte basically are one type of cell in the peripheral blood. So these cells are very sensitive to radiation. And in these cells, the chromatin structures, they are the entity called dicentric. If the dicentrics happen, if you observe the dicentric, if their structure got mutilated when exposing to radiation, so by counting those dicentric, I can assess a dose. I will in my later on slide, subsequent slide, I will show you that how this dicentric looks like and what kind of curve we obtain, and by this curve how we assess the dose. So this is the one thing which we require to have in lab, where we can manage the to make you our clinician assess the correct biodosimetry dose. Now, if I have to do the medical trials, for example, and you take any part of Delhi, and which is because Delhi is the most populous city in India. Am I right now? So if you have received more than 100 patients, what will be your strategy? So strategy is very same. After being exposed to radiation, my blood will go change. There may be disruption in the blood parameters. So on the basis of the blood parameter, I will separate or segregate the patients. Those for them the blood parameter is found to be normal. So I will segregate as a safe subjects, and those for which the blood parameter have been disrupted or found to be abnormal. So I will segregate as the further test subject. For the test subject, I will take their blood and I will culture their blood for the lymphocyte, and I will assess their bioabsorbed dose by the biodosimetry technique. Because biodosimetry technique is the gold standard technique. Because dicentric aberration only observed in the case of radiation. It is not observed in other pathogenesis states. If somebody have a liver disease, kidney disease, or some cardiac issues, so they are not going to cause chromosomal aberration. Only in the case of radiation exposure, we will observe chromosomal aberration in the lymphocyte culture. I'm sure I'm able to make you understand what is biodosimetry. So then on the medicine part, sorry. On the medicine part, I have seen that based upon the collected literature, the radiation dermatitis is one of the factor. Can you see my screen, Vaishali? Can you
No,
see?
sir. Your screen is not visible. It's not visible, sir.
Visible. Okay. Now?
Yeah, now it's fine, sir.
Oh yeah, sorry. So on the medicine side, you can see that based upon the evidence gathered from the different nuclear accident and incident, what we find that radiation burn is one of the major factor which lead to the death in the victims. And sometimes because they may appear as a wound, so clinician not give enough emphasis on these kind of symptoms, and ultimately the mismanagement of these radiation dermatitis lead to the problems, and eventually the victim may die. So the INVAS is working on development of different formulations of for treatment of radiation dermatitis. The fast healing of radiation dermatitis, and many groups are working with different approaches to achieve success in the treatment of radiation dermatitis. Radiation protection for the responder I've already explained you, and we have I think 6-7 groups who are working to develop the radioprotector with different approaches. Then the radio mitigators are the one which may prove a surprise medicine for the victims. And the one which is very close to my heart, and which I do, is the contamination of responder and victims. So where I use my I use my chemistry to to use and to absorb or take chelates or neutralize the CBRN agents out from the human skin as well as from the material surfaces, and so that my responders, my victims who came out from the contamination zone, and they remain very safe, and ultimately I can allow them to pass on to my safe zone. Safe zone is mean that for what happened that, for example, if something happened in a area, for example, in this room become a hot zone. We normally call hot zone. In this hot zone, there are two. One is victims who are lying here, and another is the responder who will come and do for the rescue of these victims. Now, after this hot zone, they may enter into a warm zone, mean outside this room. So in this outside this room, we have to perform the decontamination. After the effective decontamination, my medical team will see if there any kind of a symptom appear in the victim and responders. They will be being directed to a civilian hospital. Otherwise, if there's no symptoms, it means they are normal. So I can send these victims to civilian hospital as well as the rescue responders directed to their place. So this is the beauty of the decontamination work. So we have to have a decontamination work, and we have also expanded our nuclear emergency training programs. Earlier it was only been for doctors and technicians. Now we have been training to different paramilitary forces, defense forces, and civilian authorities. And as you can see in my biodata, so we have trained many civilian installations because they are the first port of entries in our country. These airports and seaports are the first port of entries, and they are the main veins of the Indian economy. So if I can make my airports and seaports safe, so I can save my Indian economy. So these are the beauty of this nuclear emergency training programs. So I'm now just go one by one, and before starting my actual work, these are the work which I have undertaken since 2005, and this is basically depicting a journey which I have undertook by being as a faculty in MAS, and it may contain data, but I'm not going to the nitty-gritty of data. Just for the sake of inspiring our young youth and scientists, I would like to use that data so that they may get inspired, and someday they may undertake this is as a their career and profession. Okay, somewhere like in DRD. So I'm starting with radiation dermatitis. So this is what it looked like when the it got exposed. A victim skin got exposed. So there is a redness in the exposed part. So when this redness is only there, which is called edema. So this is what we call it grade 1. Ultimately, after a day or so, or depending upon the radiation dose exposed or absorbed, there is a dry squamation. Dry squamation means it is deeply red, but there is no wetting of the exposed part. There is no wetting. It is completely dry. So it is called dry squamation. It is being graded as grade 2. But if with there's appearing of yellow part, yellow skin, yellow patches in the exposed part along with the redness, and little bit it become a wet, so then we call it the moist desquamation exposed skin as a grade 3. But here one thing is very, very important, there is no peeling of the skin. But once it got into the grade 4, then skin start peeling up. There are abundant yellow patches. This is nothing, it's a necrosis. Necrosis is a kind of cell death, and it basically shows the infection. So you can see, can you see that this necrosis part, students? Anybody? Vikram, anybody? Can you see that this is the grade 4?
Yes, sir. Yes.
This
Yes,
is what
sir.
yes, dear student, this is called necrosis. This is necrosis, and this is, you can see liquid part oozing out. So this is what is basically show the infection, and this is called grade 4. And we know that when radiation interact, then it cause dysfunctioning in the cell mechanism. So those who are from biology background, they may appreciate this cartoon diagram. That radiation lead to the generation of reactive oxygen species, and they may cause programmed cell death, apoptosis, or it lead to the macrophages, and then it lead to the the other parameters like IL-10 or TGF-beta secretion. Then in the second part, necrosis, which is the unprogrammed cell death, it lead to the activation of lymphocyte. Then NF-kappa B. NF-kappa B is basically a very important enzyme for the swelling part. It lead to the further activation of IL-1, IL-4, IL-5, IL-6, IL-8 interleukins. IL is basically symbolized the interleukins, and ultimately it also activates the INOS and COX-2, which is basically the inflammatory markers, and ultimately these ROS and NO can also cause DNA damage, and ultimately lead to the dysfunction of mitochondria, which is a storehouse of energy in the cell part. So you can see that it is a very, very complex. If you try to tap one part, it will lead to disruption. It will start disruption in the other part. So once it happened, so it become a very difficult process. So the mechanism involved in radiation injury is it's a complex issue, very, very complex issue. And that is why it is a challenge to us to develop a topical formulation so that we can, take care of this. So I'm just sharing, the approach which I have undertaken. What we find that inflammation is play a key role here. NF-kappa B, INOS 2, or NLRP3. So we find that inflammation is playing quite bit a role here, and because of the inflammation, it make the wound stuck and it not allowing the skin to get healed up on time. In fact, what we have seen in our experiment, if you not give any kind of treatment, it takes 75 to 90 days for a normal skin in the normal subject to get healed up. So this is a quite bit a challenge, and the animal remain in very, very pain. It not take any food. It lower down its food intake. So it ultimately cause problems. These are the things which are available in market, but nothing much. Aloe vera, Aquaforce. So if you talk about me, I will say that silver sulfate is only for wound healing, for the the mechanical injuries. Silver dressings, they are mechanical injuries. Betamethasone is basically nothing. It's a corticosteroids. Aloe vera is now a buzzword. If you want to publish anything, you just add the word aloe vera. So I'm not going against the one of them, but what I'm trying to say that nothing is much available in market for the healing of radiation dermatitis. So we come across approach that let's have a compound which can work on the inflammation. And what we found a compound, ethyl pyruvate, based upon the literature information and the computational approaches, again cheminformatics. So Deepti may appreciate this work, that these cheminformatic approaches are the one which normally the pharma companies use to screen out the potential molecules. So what we have isolated a compound called ethyl pyruvate, and those who are from the biology background, we know that pyruvate it's an integrated compound of Krebs cycle. Am I right, na? Am I right, Vikram? It's a basically
Yes, sir.
cycle. It's a Krebs cycle compound. So it means that it's a derivative of a endogenous compound of one who are being synthesized inside the body. So it means that it would have a tolerability because our immune system will not reject it compound. So it is easy for us to develop it as a drug. So what we have done, this is the information is available on the literature, and we have verified in our cell culture work. Yes, it is working very fine, and it's basically target the HMG1 inflammatory markers, and because of the inhibition of HMG1 markers, it further deactivate the NF-kappa B and the cascading factor. And because of this inhibition of this cascading factors, it not lead to the excessive inflammation. And what we have found that yes, when we applied this ethyl paravate based hydrogel cream on the radiation dermatitis, what we observed that these molecules, these top formulations do wonder. Let me show you. With this screen, you can see that I have taken different animals in different numbers. For example, 6 in one group, and I've applied the different treatment like control. Control is one without anything. Placebo is one, like for example, Vaseline. In our case, we have taken the Vaseline. Standard is like, for example, corticosteroid or betamethasone or anything you wish to apply here. Then we have taken the different concentration of ethyl paravate based hydrogel, and what we have assessed that in 42 days period time, our control in the control group, the skin is not healed up completely, but if you compare it with the 1% or 2%, the healing is proper. And in fact, if you allow, we have a data, if you allow this group to for the further healing, it takes 75 days. So it means that what a control group achieved in 75 days, we have achieved within 42 days by using the 1% or 2% ethyl paravate. So you can figure it out the usefulness of ethyl paravate based hydrogel cream. Now, skin integrity is all depend upon the protein contents. So beside the physical observation, we have the physical protein content, and what we've observed that yes, the protein content is quite high in the groups treated with ethyl paravate. Similarly, we have in more specific, we have assessed the hydroxyproline and collagen content. As nowadays, many TV ad says protein collagen से नहीं होता है तो आपका skin पर झुर्री पड़ जाता है ना. So what it means that collagen is the structural ingredient of the skin. So if you find that the collagen content is high in the particular group, it means that it has a good skin integrity, and it basically indicates the healing aspect. And what we observed that yes, in the ethyl paravate groups, the collagen content was quite high as compared to the group it's been control or placebo or standard. Yeah. So I not mean to say that the standard not working, but yes, our compound, our formulation is doing very, very good, almost 100 times better than the standards and the placebos. You will also appreciate this histopathological slides, because we believe what we see, and this is what my motto, and I always tell my students that I will not believe your bar diagrams or chart diagrams. I want to see the actual images, and this is the beauty of the microscopy. When you take the skin part after the 42 days and you do the HE staining, and this is basically a dye. There are the two dyes where basically shows the deposition in the structural parts where you can see the vacuoles, the collagen content, the epidermis, the hair follicles. And what we have seen that in the control groups at 42 days, I can't see much retention or much restoration of the structural integrity. But when I compare it the skin sample of which been treated with ethyl paravate, I can see that proper epidermis, dermis, and the vacuoles, and the deposition of collagen, and the fibers resettling there. So it means that I can say that yes, this works. This works. For example, traumatic injuries, like we have tried in the model which is called excision wound model, and we have developed the two. One is the silver nanoparticle based hydrogel, and another is the ethyl paravate hydrogel. I think you have heard about hydrogel, so you will find that why this hydrogel is much into the prominence. Do you know, students? Do you know that why these days different research groups are pursuing this approach, hydrogel? Why they are emphasizing or giving more focus on hydrogen? Anybody? If have any guess? Why that research groups are focusing on hydrogen? Basically, let me just make you very simplify. Hydrogens are basically, they have a mesh-like structure. It helps in slow the drug release, one factor, and another factor, it is helping the moisture retention. And third thing is that the diffusion of gas across the hydrogen mesh structure is very, very easy. So both these three factors help in fastening the wound healing. And that is why the pharma companies nowadays are converting their simple ointment into a hydrogel topical formulations. So we have transformed a silver nanoparticle into a hydrogel, and for which a patent has been granted in 2020 for us. And what we have showed in this figure, we are showing in this figure that our silver nanoparticle based formulations are far better than the standard and the placebo and the control. In fact, in the ethyl pyruvate hydrogel, we have also find the similar results. So why it's so like this? The silver nanoparticle, as we know, that is since ancient time, it is an antimicrobial in nature. And if I convert them into nanoparticles, I'm basically enlarging its surface area. I'm enhancing its conductivity, and because it reduces the electronic and the valence band gap. So it means I'm making them more conductive, and both this property helping rupture of the membrane of bacteria. So basically it is becoming more lethal to bacteria. So it has an enhanced antibacterial action, and because of the enhanced antibacterial action, I'm able to take load of the bacterial load. And bacterial load is one of the prime factors which lead to the excessive inflammation. So therefore, if I'm integrating the silver nanoparticle hydrogel, I am taking the bacterial load into a picture. While the EP hydrogel, the focus is directly on the excessive inflammation. So if I'm able to reduce the inflammation, I am able to push my wound forward to the third and the fourth stage of the wound healing. The first stage is sealing, bleeding. After bleeding, it becomes sealing. Sealing in bed, there's no further bleeding. Then the inflammation phase start. What this phase do? It allows the cytokines and the white blood cells to enter the site of the injury, and they take out the debris part, and they open the area for the growth factors. After this, the protein, the cell addition start, and the collagen deposition is started. And after this, the skin, the wound is moved toward the fourth phase, which is called the remodeling phase. So you will find completely same skin as before the injury part. So this is what the four stages of wound, and both silver nanoparticle and methyl pyruvate hydrogel basically works on that. We have to reduce the accessibility, inflammation. Inflammation is required, but excessive inflammation is not welcome. So we have to reduce the excessive inflammation. This is what is called tensile strength. This is very, very important. If I'm talking about repairing of any tissue after the injury, I have to assess the tensile strength. And tensile strength is nothing, it is related to the protein content. So if you have a repair tissue of high tensile strength, mechanical strength, it means that it is healed up. And what we have observed that in the case of ethyl pyruvate as well as in silver nanoparticle, the tensile strength of repaired tissue is quite high as compared to the control and placebo standards. Fine. And this is what I have shown with the help of my histopathological slide, that yes, in these silver nanoparticle and ethyl pyruvate based compound, the restoration of microstructure is completed in the repair tissue after the experimental duration. This is one for the collagen staining. This is what how we develop the I'm just bypassing this because I it may take some time, and if somebody have a question, he may ask this question. Okay. So now the biology part is a little bit over. Now, if you have any question, if anybody would have a question, you may ask a question. I'm glad to answer it. Yeah. Do anybody have a question?
Thank you, sir, for such an astonishing and informative lecture. Sir,
Vikram, hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Suryadev. Sir, there are a few questions in the chat box from the audience.
Yeah, my presentation is not over. I'm sorry to say like this.
Can I proceed?
Can I take 15 minutes more?
Sure, sir. Sure.
Yeah. Okay, let me just go fast. So decontamination. This is what we do. That the contaminated skin, we use some chemicals, and we by chelating, or I take this toxic compound and I convert it into a non-toxic compound, and this is what we do in decontamination. So we have developed different different topical formulation. One is we have used a macrocyclic compound called Serene. So what we do, we first perform the DFT studies. The Deepti will appreciate it. Then we develop its formulation, and then we confirm the theoretical studies with the experimental studies, which is we normally use is a spectroscopic studies. Then we analyze on the animal. We applied the dorsal region of the animal. We shave it off, and then we apply our sebum agent on the dorsal skin, and then we try to see that whether it take out the element or not. So we analyze it with the help of a ICP-MS technique, and we also check the how much this formulation can enter the human skin, rat skin, how much depth it can take. So what we have seen that yes, in fact after 5 hours it is not reached to a much beneath the skin, because in decontamination it is very important that it should not permeate too much inside, so that it can reach the blood vessels. Otherwise it will lead to the internalization of the sebum agent. So we have to focus that it should not reach to the blood vessels. Then we have developed the formulations, basically wipes for the chemical biology agents, and we have taken the different layering of the wipes. We analyze the antibacterial and antifungal activities of these wipes using the international standard. This is very, very important for the students, that we should come out from the textbooks and we have to follow what is the standards are available there. So we have to follow the standards and the protocols, because ultimately it is the very examples that by which you can survive in the actual world. So by the international standard, we have performed the antibacterial and antifungal activities on these wipes, and later on we applied the these agents on the rat skin and the rabbit, in fact on the rabbit model. And what we used to do that this is the one thermogram of GCMS, and by which before it was like this, and after the decontamination there is no appearance of peak. It means that the compound is completely gone off from the rat skin. This is the beauty of these kind of methodologies. This is one is a comet assay. So in the comet assay, if you have a tail length, it means that your DNA got disrupted. And when you see in the case of skin sample, if you isolate DNA and you find the DNA structure is there's a tail, so the tail length is given the index of destruction of DNA. So if you're able to reduce the tail length after the decontamination, it's basically indicating the efficacy of your decontamination. So that is what is called chemical biology approach. In fact, it's for the thermal application, whatever I have shown you in the traumatic injuries or radiation burns, or for example on the decontamination, So we have to perform the toxicity, whether it is will safe or not. So we perform the toxicity on the Sprague-Dawley rats, and we undertake physical observation, and we collect the blood, and we analyze for the systemic toxicity, like for example hematology parameters and biochemistry parameters on these blood sample of these rats. So this is the way we do that. We observe the body weight, consumption of food. Then there are some changes in their behavioral aspect. For example, he not feeling good in taking proper sleep or proper walk, or not able to perform certain functions. So this is called behavioral aspect. Then we have also checked the hematological and biochemistry parameters, whether these if I am applying the my cream on the palm, on my hand, and can I see, if I take a blood from my arm, so can I see any systemic toxicity? So by this, I can rule out the systemic toxicity. Then we also do the histopathology of the the areas which is being treated with the formulations. Traditional countermeasure programs. Right now, if somebody says in world there is no approved countermeasure, but yes, in the case of emergency, like for example in Corona, we have seen the emergency approval of drugs. Emergency approval of drug mean that for timing you can administer those drugs to the patients who've been infected with Corona, but it is not they are the cleared drugs. They will get cleared if the enough data will be presented to the DGCI. So on that basis, we have an emergency approval of radiation countermeasure in USA, potassium iodide, Persian blue, and DTPA, and the other being approved for the other indication like the growth colony estimation factors, and pegylated GSF or GMCCF, and the other molecules. So in that approach, the INMAS is also working, and we have been using herbal, bacterial origin, and pure synthetic chemicals for the infections. So this is our classified program, so I cannot show you much information here, but I can assure you that yes, we are perfect. I'm just skipping. This is very, very important. Like for example, if you're administering a drug inside the, if you're administering orally a patient, then the drug action on the body will be decided by how much it absorbs, distribute, or metabolize or eliminate. So one of very critical factor is that we have to assess the plasma protein kinetics, and we have to undertake the pharmacokinetics of that, of that particular drug in the plasma of that particular subject. So that we do, interaction with the serum protein. This is one of the parameters of if you wish to, any drug, then you have to undertake this parameter. You have to undertake the investigation related to this parameter. So we used to, screen our compound with the interaction with plasma protein. And if you're able to screen out it, yes, it is given moderate binding with the plasma protein, then you have a favorable adsorption, distribution, metabolism, and elimination. So that is very, very useful if you wish to approve, if you wish to get an approval of a drug from DGCI, it is mandatory to conduct the serum protein interaction study with your the screen compounds. Chemoinformatic approaches, for example, one I have shown you that ethyl pyruvate is we have selected out of the base. This is one example we'd like to show you that we were screening the good compound, those who can reactivate the acetylcholine esterase, which is being affected by the nerve agents. And this is what one chemoinformatic approach we use, like as a chemist, to design a compound which can be used for biological application. This is what the biodosimetry slide would look like. We take the blood from the victim, then we culture it. This is how the normal metaphase looks like. But in fact, the figure is not very clear because I've taken from the guideline. So there is a disruption in the dicentrics. So you can see they are the elongated structure of the chromatin here. So these elongated structures and these rupture structure. So we count them, and we develop a plot like this. This is called dicentric curve. So if you have a dicentric curve, so if you find if 0.5 dicentric per cells, actually take ruler and you will find that it is less than 2 gray. So so this is how you accurately determine the dose of the victims, the dose of the radiation in the victims. So thank you so much for giving me such a precious listening. I don't know how much justice I have done, but I try to manage, because as I've been told that these are the students from the graduate levels, and I have to maintain a very very simple, but I wish to I wish to convey the message very clear to my students, because actually I am also alumni of the University of Delhi, and many graduates, postgraduates, students come to for training in my lab. And what to my best of surprise, that when they come to the lab, they actually see the real scenario, and sometimes they are shocked to see that this is the way we have to do our work. So actual training is very, very important, and it is important that student, apart than their textbook knowledge, their routine experiment, they should also participate in these kind of trainings, these kind of seminars, these kind of talks. They should acquaint, they should expose themselves to these kind of information, so that they can find themselves equipped. They should be capable enough to undertake any kind of challenge. And I mean to say that you are in a good college, you are being taught by good teachers like Dr. Kamal Kishore sir, Dr. Rajiv, Dr. Deepthi, Dr. Vaishali, and Dr. Rocky, and many others. And because Delhi University, the premier institutes, they are one of the premier university in the world, and we should be fortunate that we are being part of this university, and we should raise our bar in a way that we should equip ourselves to meet any challenge which you may find in your profession. So I wish all the best to the students. If you have any question, I'm glad to answer those questions. Anything you would like, anything.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an astonishing and informative lecture. Sir, shall we proceed with some questions from the audience?
Sure.
Okay, now I, Suryadev Singh from second year, would like to take up the privilege to invite questions from the audience. Whosoever wants to ask up the questions in accord to the topic can kindly mention it in the chat section. So, sir, here we are with our first question, and it's from Rahul Kumar Patel. He says, what decisions can we take to prevent another nuclear accident like Chernobyl?
Basically, it is like routine inspection and the 24/7 period monitoring of those sites, and the international agencies are already keeping tab on those areas. So you don't worry about it. And the third thing is diplomacy. All the international countries are in talk to each other, and especially to talk to the Russian. So there's no fear should perpetuate among ourselves that the international community is not serious about them. So if you think about any situation, observation, 24/7 surveillance, and diplomacy, they are three pillars by which you can monitor these kind of situations.
Thank you, sir. The second question is from Prabhat. He says, sir, how does nerve gas Serene affect the human body? What are the potential of biological warfare in modern era, and how can it further be encountered?
Could you just please repeat your second question?
Sure, sir. The question says, how does nerve gas Serene affect the human body? What are the potential of biological warfare in modern era, and how it can be encountered?
Okay. So but basically the nerve agent, that is Serene or whether it is Tabun, Soman, whatever. So they work on our peripheral central nervous system. So they have one enzyme called acetylcholinesterase, which I have shown in one of my slide. So they form a irreversible bonding with this acetylcholinesterase enzyme. So when the binding is so tight that it's not able to detach from the nerve agent, and by inhibiting this enzyme, it leads to the accumulation of choline in the cell, and because of this, your whole nerve system got affected. So if your nerve system got affected, it leads to the situation of hypoxia. Hypoxia means deficiency of oxygen inside the victim body, and ultimately the victim have convulsions, they have nausea, vomiting, convulsion, and ultimately cardiac arrest, lead to the death of the victim. So this is the proper mechanism. Now the second question comes to that, what is the potential of corona? Is the biggest example we have so far, although it is not a biological warfare, but it is almost show you the magnitude of the whole world population being affected by in fact, if one of the studies says that the whole amount of corona is less than a 1 tablespoon. So you can imagine the potential of that biological warfare agent. Second thing is that biological weapons are banned substance. So there's no country who can producing and with the intention of using on other countries. So this is a banned subject. Yes, there are some who are producing, but as far as we have to rely on the preparedness. So our preparedness is good, and we have showcased in the case of COVID that the defense forces were emerged as a frontline workers that help the other civilian authorities to combat the COVID situation. So this is show our preparedness. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. The next question is from Mahi Bhardwaj. She says, sir, not many plants grow near nuclear reactors, but there are still few plants which grow. How do they grow? And if it's because of their gene, so can we use those genes to eliminate nuclear radiation from affected area?
Mahi, actually, I'm not a botanist by profession, but yes, I have read about it. There are some plants which have a potential to absorb the radioactivity from the soil as well as from the water table. And many countries, they have undertaken the research projects to grow these plants near the nuclear installation so that they can, take out the radioactivity if they spread in the environment. That is a very useful strategy. But if you ask me about the mechanisms, I'm sorry, actually I'm not the right expert to comment on those things. But yes, I have seen projects that the different research groups have undertaken to grow different plants near the installation site and to analyze whether they are able to absorb the radionuclides or. So it's a very useful study.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Ansh Sharma. He says, sir, after drastic nuclear incidents in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, nuclear reactions must have been banned from world in the words of harming the mankind. But what are the reasons that it is still made and proceeded in the countries?
This is a very diplomatic question, so I must answer in very diplomatic manner. It is everyone is developing these things only for the purpose of deterrence. Deterrence means that dharana. If my enemy have a nuclear arsenal, so it means that he can use against me. But if I will show him that I have also have a capability and I have also have developed and manufactured the nuclear arsenal, it means that you don't dare to give your eyes to me. It means that deterrence is the policy, and as far as our government is concerned, we maintain the nuclear arsenal, but with the purpose of nuclear deterrence. We will not first use that thing against any country. It is only for our defense. This is very, very simple, and we have a very highest record in the safety aspect, no nuclear accident happen in any nuclear installation in our civil sector. So this is our proof of record that India is the nation which believe in the safety of others also. But you should not think it is a new India, it's a different India. You should not think that we are weak. We have the things. It is only for the purpose of defense, not for tech.
Sir, the next question is mine only, and it's in the line of the previous question. Sir, my question is, at a place where we are proceeding with the techniques involved in disaster management, and on the other hand, we ourselves are involved in bombing up grenades over the other countries, like we have recently seen Ukraine and Russia war. So don't you think these two things are completely contrary and managements will not help this much in this area?
If I can figure it out, Surya, correctly, disaster management, whether it is a natural or man-made, it is something like I have to provide the fast action, relief action to my victims. That is all about disaster management. For example, if something happened, like example, urban floods. Urban floods become a new buzzword in these times. Yeah? So if something happened, if like a torrential rain happened in Delhi and you got there in that situation, I have a capability to rescue it as fast as I can do. The other way around is like for example, I can talk about in my nation context. India never ever have taken the first attack approach. If you dare to attack us, we will respond effectively against them. This is our approach. I can point. So we have the capability that we can respond effectively against any nation, but we will not attack first. So both the approaches have different approaches. Both the approaches are different way. Like one, I have to take care of my victims. This is also for defense. Others, if somebody attack my civilians, I will respond to them. So for both the things are important for the progress of the country. Because if you want to assess a country's strength, there are three ways. One is political stability, another is the economy, and third is their military strength. So you cannot deny military strength. Military strength has to be there. Otherwise, you can imagine any country. If they don't have the military strength, other country can come and invade it. For example, what is happening in Ukraine also. So we can't. We can't. I'm not saying that we can be Russia, but I cannot be act as a Ukraine. I has to have my capability to respond.
Thank you, sir. The very last question, due to the shortage of time, we are taking up it as the last question. It's from Vikram Sehrawat. He says, those students who want to make their career as a scientist in DRDO, what path should they follow as an undergraduate student? So please elaborate.
Okay, that's a very pertinent question Vikram have asked. As I told you that in your summer vacation, you should undertake trainings in different, you can approach us to our HRD department in different, in MAS, SSPL, there are many labs. So you can go to our website, drdo.org.in. You can choose the lab. You contact their laboratories, all the numbers are displayed there. So you can contact the HRD coordinators and you can submit your application along with your letter of endorsement, latest like from the head of department or principal, then your CV and your application to the HRD. Then we ask them to come and for the training, because the training is the first thing where you can actually see the our environment of research. After this, you pursue the same in your post graduation. Later on, we open the positions. You can go to our site called RAC, Recruitment and Assessment Center. So it's a site in public domain. So it advertises the position of scientist from time to time. So you fill that position. If you find set qualification and experience, you fill that position, and we have a very open and transparent system by which we undertook the recruitment process. So this is other way around that you can enroll yourself as a PhD student in our labs where we can provide a world-class research infrastructure to our research student to undertake their research problem.
Thank you so very much, sir, for answering up all the queries so patiently. Now, I would like to request our co-convener, Dr. Vishali Arora, ma'am, to present the certificate of appreciation and the memento, along with giving up the formal official vote of thanks.
Thank you, Surya. Am I audible? So good afternoon to one and all present here, our respected speaker, Dr. Himanshu Oja, sir. So, sir, I extend my deepest gratitude to you to take out time from your busy schedule to grace this event today. Thank you so much for your inspiring and encouraging words of wisdom on this special occasion. And even it is really knowledgeable to know the so many areas of so many areas you have touched in the field of nuclear radiation. And definitely, sir, your work is definitely a motivation to all our students, and not just students, actually to all of us. Thank you so much, sir, for being here with us.
Thank you, Vaishali. Thank you, Vaishali. And it is being in, I really enjoyed, interacting with students. And, this is the first time I observed that students are interacting in a more better manner. They are very eager to know about it. I don't know what justice I have done. I've tried to convey my research in a very simplest, words to the student.
It was indeed very good, sir. Please accept this memento from the Life Sciences Society as a token of appreciation.
Thank you. And I convey my sincere thanks to Dr. Rajiv,
Yes.
Principal sir, for giving us an opportunity to again interacting with such young enlightened minds. And I'm really thankful to Kamal Kishore sir, Dr. Deepti and Dr. Vaishali, to you, and all the students who have given the patience listening to me, and bear me to listen all my research which I have undertaken in 15 years. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So on the behalf of Life Sciences Society of Deshpur College, I extend my gratitude to all of you, present today in today's webinar, and for their contribution to make this webinar a great success. So special thanks to our principal sir, Professor Rajiv Agarwal, and our vice principal sir, Professor Kamal Kumar Gupta sir, for providing immense support always to make this webinar successful. And even, in any of our events, they've been very supportive always. So thanks are also due for our hardworking IQAC coordinator, Dr. Aditya Saxena sir, and Dr. Indrakant sir, who's the coordinator of DBT START college scheme in our college. So I also extend my gratitude to the coordinator of the life sciences, Dr. I.M. Rocky sir, and all the conveners and co-conveners of the society, Dr. Roshni ma'am, Dr. Manisha ma'am, Dr. Deepti, Dr. Anju Chimbur ma'am, Dr. Kiran Bala ma'am, for always being the support system to organize any event of the Life Sciences Society. And I really thank from the bottom of my heart to all the teachers present here who have taken time out of their schedules and attended today's webinar. And I cannot miss our enthusiastic students of the society, who is led by President Vikram, and all the office bearers, namely Ansh, Mahi, Manika, Suryadev, and sorry if I'm missing any name, and even all the students who have always volunteered to work hard to make this webinar. And not only in this webinar, actually all the events of life sciences very successful. And I wish to extend my heartfelt thanks to Monica ma'am for all the technical support she provides us always. So I would like to end with a small quote, and it says, "The beauty of earth lies in its simplicity and natural look. So let us pledge to conserve its natural resources and protect it from degradation." So happy Earth Day to everyone. Thank you so much, everyone present here, to make it a great success. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
We are towards the end of the event. Further, I would request all the participants to kindly fill up the feedback form. And thank you all for your precious present. We may disperse now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Suryadev. Ma'am, I would like to request everyone to switch on their cameras for a group photo.
Sure, sure. So please.
Ansh, kindly take a group photo. You all are requested to switch on your cameras. Thank you. I hope we are done. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And you all are requested to fill the feedback form given in the chat.
Thank you, Dr. Himanshu, for such a interesting and wonderful talk.
Thank you,
such
Dr.
a
Himanshu.
interactive, and the participants really enjoyed it very much. It's very, very informative.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And I'm very
delivered.
Once again, I'm associated with quality. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vishali. Bye-bye.